Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, and anybody listening on a regular basis, and especially those listening for the first time. Now, we try and get some entertaining and different guests on board, and we've got somebody today who I know quite well, and we'll get into that a little bit shortly. Now, Ken Robertson, Chief of E-Commerce for NAQEL Express. Ken, lovely to have you on board, my friend.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Chris.
Oh, no, that's good. And for those out there who don't know, myself and Ken, we worked together and we've known each other. We probably were a little bit like opposition when we first met, but something happened which has brought us a little bit closer together. So it's lovely. Now, as you've only just heard him introduce himself, Ken is a native of Australia. And for those
actually, South Africa.
For those rugby boys out there, they love that. So, hey, you an Australian kid. Yeah. But seriously, Ken's he's a big man like myself, and that'll also be a topical discussion point later on because Ken is a survivor of COVID, and he picked it up whilst being stationed in Saudi Arabia, where we were both based. Ken, Chief of E-Commerce, if you can just give our listeners just a little bit of background as to what you're responsible for and what accountability you have.
Yeah, so I'm essentially responsible for the development of NAQEL's International Express network. Yeah, so as an example, we've opened up from, all the way from China to the USA and in between. And in the Middle East, we essentially affect final mile deliveries. Yeah, so we've got source countries and delivery countries, and we cater to the e-commerce world, yeah, cross-border.
Okay, brilliant. Now, just something that you touched on there, you put final delivery or last mile. Obviously, Saudi Arabia being the 13th largest ground mass country in the world, it's a huge country, as we both know.
Correct.
So to have that sort of coverage, I think it's important to mention NAQEL has probably got the most extensive coverage of any company in Saudi.
Absolutely, and we literally deliver to every nook and cranny in the country. We've got what we call remote areas. We've got couriers on routes that go maybe 2 or 3 days out into very, very remote regions as well as the big cities. Yeah, so yes, we cover everywhere. But we're not only Saudi though, Chris. Yeah, because we cover other countries in the Middle East as well.
Oh yeah. No. We'll get to that. What I was going to say next is, outside of Saudi being the home base, which countries, especially for your responsibility, which countries would you like to touch base on?
Yeah, so in terms of final mile, the big two are Saudi and the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and so on. But then the feeding countries, China, I guess like any country, yeah, is the one, yeah. So China, followed by Europe. Turkey is very, very important for us, and then the Gulf cross-border. Yeah. So lots of fun.
Yes, indeedy. Now, just getting on to a couple of issues now. People are very, very familiar of how e-commerce has suddenly just exploded, and it's been enhanced by this damn COVID.
Yeah.
Difficulties, Ken, with e-commerce. What would you say are the biggest challenges that anybody who's involved in the full spectrum of e-commerce has to face?
Yeah. So, are you talking in general or in relation to COVID?
No. In general, to start with. We'll come to the COVID thing shortly.
Okay. In the markets that we operate in, the biggest challenge is we operate in a conservative society. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a challenge in itself. If you've got some strange man knocking on a door, you can't do a delivery to a post box or to leave a package on somebody's front door. So that for us is pretty key, as well as the market being a cash and delivery market. So yeah, up to about 80% of the deliveries that we affect are cash on delivery. Yeah, which represents a whole host of challenges. And then finally, the address infrastructure. So yes, we don't have zip codes and so on that you do that you have in the UK, and that represents a whole lot of challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and those are the 2 points. which make it so much more complex. And obviously from the tracking of where the drivers are and the support mechanisms that NAQEL have got makes it very important. But the cash on delivery, that's one of the reasons why the return rates is so low.
Absolutely. Well, there's two things. Yeah, one is if you look at e-commerce in Europe in relation to returns, you will find that someone like my wife will buy a pair of shoes, but she'll actually buy 3 pairs of shoes and keep one and return 2. Yeah, over here they don't do that. Yeah, so that's very, very different. But also what you need to bear in mind is because it's cash on delivery, if we don't deliver, then the shipper, our customer, isn't selling. So we're almost playing the final sales arm for these online stores, yeah. But it's very rewarding because you've got delivery rates of up to 90%, whereas if you look at countries like Germany, you've got returns of up to 70%. Yeah, so it is very rewarding.
Ben, do you think that I mean, obviously now even people who thought that they wouldn't get into e-commerce, they're able to sit at home. They've had so much time at home that they've began to become accustomed to it, and even older generations or people who didn't like the IT, they're now becoming accustomed to it. Do you think there's going to be some sort of, like, I wouldn't say regulatory, but some sort of guidelines that will come out with people who, like your wife, and I dare to say my wife, my daughter would fall in the same category, but people who overorder and then return too high a rate? Do you think there'll be some sort of filtering or classification in the future?
So yes, and I think you in Europe you're starting to see signs of that, although that is more administered by the online platform rather than regulation. So and people are starting to wise up to that. So you've got people like my daughters who may decide to purchase a dress for the weekend and then return it on the Monday morning. Yeah.
Oh my. Hey.
There you go, man. So obviously all these online stores are wising up to that and putting mechanisms in place in terms of what is the duration you can keep goods before you return them, etc., etc. But bearing in mind that it's also competitive, so it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes they try to extend those barriers, and other times they try to reduce them, depending on the state of play.
Yeah, and it's an incredible thing what competition makes you do.
Correct. And I hope the European practices don't come here, because it's just crazy. I think the integrity of I've got to be careful what I say here, but the integrity of the online shopper in the Middle East, essentially they purchase what they want. That's it. And if they change, that will make life a lot harder for online stores.
Yeah. And Ken, how difficult has it been with regards to the cash on delivery and the COVID criteria that's had to be introduced?
Yeah, so I think like anything, there's been a lot of rapid development, because it's clear the first thing is our consignees, so who are receiving the goods, understand that we've got a courier that's doing a delivery and he represents a risk. So the first risk is himself. So is he contagious, and if he is, what are the preventative measures? And then the second risk is the handing over of cash. So what are the implications there? So we've done things like every single one of our couriers carries a point of sales machine. So typically what you would have in a restaurant when somebody comes to when you're going to pay by card. We've implemented things like Apple Pay and local payment options online, so that the objective being that we would reduce the dependency on cash. Saying that, the more remote you go, there's still a big reliance on cash. But our couriers are wearing gloves, and sanitizing all the time.
Yeah. And obviously I know how focused everybody is, and how pushy certain people have been with making sure that PPE is in good stock and being used correctly. So it's a good example. Now, with the impact of COVID and obviously the explosion of e-commerce, okay, what what's happened then is you've got to, well, you've got a risk, or you've got an issue with regards to best case scenario, because all of a sudden the business just explodes.
Yeah.
So to get extra couriers and to get extra vehicles, obviously crowdsourcing is something that's used. Can you explain to our listeners what crowdsourcing is?
Yeah, I just want to take you just a step back there, Chris, because with cash on delivery, what we found was when Corona hit us, or hit the world, the primary source of trade was coming from China.
Yep.
So Chinese companies closed down,
Yep.
the whole of China closed down, and there was no shipments coming. So we went through a tough time, and our customers were begging us to, do 5 attempts, 6 attempts, 7 attempts to get cash flow. Yeah, because cash flow for them was obviously very important for their employees and
Yep.
so on. So from that, we then moved to China opening up and the Middle East closing down. So we went to the exact opposite scenario, yeah? And, we moved in, days from receiving about 30 tons a day up to 200 tons, yeah?
Yeah.
So your infrastructure that you have in place, the labor, your labor resources is quite a challenge, because like me, most people that, or many people that work here are expatriates. Yeah.
Yeah.
So traditionally we've pulled off an expatriate labor market, but if you need additional couriers, you can't go to the market. Yeah. You've got to go to another country to recruit, which was a real challenge for us. So crowdsourcing became very, very, very important for us. And what we did was, because of the lockdown, there were a lot of local guys sitting at home. We used a whole host of channels to recruit and onboard, yeah,
Yeah.
As well as obviously then ticking all the boxes from a regulation perspective. We needed things like permits. You need a permit to drive on the road during a lockdown, yeah, and so on. So in terms of the channels, we were using key influencers in social media that helped us obviously go through the recruitment process. We automated the onboarding process of individuals, and then we went through a whole learning process in terms of the best way to prepare shipments for them, because you use common sense, and your common sense is, well, give them a bucket of shipments and tell them to go and deliver. But what happens if some of those shipments aren't in the area that they live, and they don't want them, and so on, yeah? So we learned a lot, but I think we were lucky as well, because the systems and the processes we have in place haven't been put in place for an explosion in growth, but they're systems and processes in any case, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, and we applied those and made them more robust, enhanced, and I think we've come through it okay, yeah?
It's been, and it's obviously, well, it was, and it still is, it's a huge learning process, and the crisis recovery experience is something that's going to stay with people now for a long time. So it's in some ways it's good, but it's for the wrong reasons, but it makes everybody respond and be more agile and more focused.
Absolutely.
Now, with those pressures, Ken, and obviously with bringing so many people online like you had to, we both know that procedures for communication, information control, guidelines, and also spatial social distancing had to be put into place. So that also was a new learning experience for everybody, and segregating areas where crowdsourcing would come, and then where the regular courier drivers would be.
Correct. And what we found was, again, just as things like, so the first set of problems we had was we had all these shipments, but you don't have warehouses for them. So what do you do with them? Yeah. So, and then the fun and games started. Yeah. But from a health and safety perspective, so one thing that was very clear for us and for me as the leader of this business is, I was clear that I didn't want any of my couriers, yeah, so the people in the front line, to contract corona, yeah? And be that crowdsourced couriers or owned couriers. Yeah. So everything we did was focused on that arena. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was little things like, you know, I think we were one of the first companies to start taking people's temperatures when people came into the workplace. Yeah. Ensuring that before they enter the workplace, if they didn't have a mask, because at that stage, all the experts were saying, well, you know, it may be a case that if you wear a mask, there's no protection. Yeah. And if there is any protection, it will only protect the individual that's got the virus, not the individual that doesn't have it, and so on. It turns out now that everybody should wear masks. So ensuring that every individual had masks, every individual had a pair of gloves, every individual had hand sanitizer. So when I say pairs of gloves, not a pair of gloves, pairs of gloves, hand sanitizer, and then the refills, because straight away everything, there's no hand sanitizer in the pharmacy, so where do you get them from? And you know, you're buying on an industrial scale and so on. And for a long time, we succeeded in holding back Corona, bearing in mind that Saudi, I guess, hasn't been as catastrophic as the UK, but peaked at about 4,500 cases a day, new cases. And, you know, we don't want our guys to get this. And then all of a sudden, you know, the prophet, he was the first guy to get the virus, which I couldn't believe. I just was blown away, which was myself, obviously.
Now coming to that, Ken, okay, and what I said at the beginning, when we got to know each other, like you're a big fella, same as me. I mean, you're even bigger than me, so people can work out now exactly how big you are. But in rugby terms, you know, you'd definitely be one of those boys that you wouldn't want to be caught by. But when you became ill, we sort of got a lot closer, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for the support. Yeah.
No. It's a pleasure. And I was thinking to myself, you know, to be in a country that's not your own, and a language that you're not fluent in, you know, how difficult it was. So that was one of the motivations. And also, I always said, well, you know what I said to you in the early days, so that was there. But I think we both need to say how well you were looked after, and the medical services and the support that was given in Saudi, which was very good, huh?
Correct. So honestly, I think I was lucky that I was in Saudi. I had a bit of a rocky ride, and the medical care and attention, for me anyway, I was well looked after. There were times when my oxygen levels dropped quite low. I was lucky that I didn't understand the readings, because then I would have panicked. I found out later. But the medical staff really looked after me. And you know, I've never been checked up on so much, so often. And if there is a positive with Corona, my positive would be that I was lucky that I had it in Saudi. There was clearly, even today, despite the fact that the numbers have increased, there's a number of bed space, enough bed space available. There's enough doctors available and what have you. So the health system is very robust and high quality. So yes, I came out okay on the other side. And the other positive is I gave up smoking after 39 years. So Corona wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah, but that's one of the points I was going to make when I said that there's a trending issue at the moment over in the UK. Boris is talking about you know, people looking after themselves more and being healthier and losing a bit of weight, and you know that it can affect you worse if you're overweight. And now they're looking at all sorts of controls with regards to junk food and when it can be advertised, etc. And fair play to him. He also admitted that he struggles a bit with his weight because he's not exactly a 100-meter sprinter himself. But I mean, that has had a change to the way you look at things as well, Ken, hasn't it? I mean, over and above giving up the smoking.
Yeah. So like I think I said, I can't remember. I've got 4 kids, mate. Yeah. They're all based in your neck of the woods. and they're dear to me. And I'm in Saudi Arabia on my own with my wife, and I want to enjoy them when the time is right. Yeah. So for me, that's important. Yeah. So you're right. Right now, I swim not a lot. Yeah, but probably about 500 meters a day, which is a change. Yeah. To a pack or two of cigarettes a day. Yeah? Saying that I miss the cigarettes, I absolutely love them, but that's another story. Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll find something to replace that urge.
Yeah.
Now, from a business perspective,
Yeah.
and we both had many discussions on risk registers and risk assessment, especially masks and things like that. What sort of lessons do you think people should learn, and lessons that you learn, or that not necessarily lessons, but just things that you would have done differently if you were able to go back in time?
Yeah. So first and foremost, so this is different to 2008. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very different. Although 2008 was a big shock in terms of magnitude. Yes, it's a different ballgame. First and foremost, I think the mistake that I made was the focus I had on the people on the ground was a driving force in me, but I didn't focus enough on my management. Yeah. So what we, in terms of contingency, we did things like we had 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Yeah. But as the demand in the business grew, I pulled my management in. Yeah. And it was the management, me being the first, that got hit with Corona. Yeah. And with that, there was obviously an impact in terms of service levels in some areas, and an impact in decision making. Yeah. So the one thing that I would definitely change is keeping that contingency in place for management. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And segregating them a lot better. Yeah. So that would be number one. Yeah. Number two, and I say this probably, and will want to give myself a slap later, is what we found was that with our customers, you would sit down and you would do a forecast, yeah, because the forecast determines the resource requirement, yeah, and we would have customers that would be saying, okay, our forecast is we will give you 300 shipments a day, yeah, so. And based on that, you then obviously know what your resource requirements are, yeah? But you would end up getting 5,000 shipments a day, yeah? So it's learning to say no, or working with them, because if you're an online platform, the platform has the ability to switch off cities, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, they can say, okay, well, in Jeddah, we're not going to promote, you can't buy, but in Riyadh, we can sell more, yeah? Yeah. So that is what we're putting into place now. In hindsight, it is something that would have been a good tool to use.
Yeah. So the tap on, tap off supply and demand approach.
Correct.
And okay, so
because
I'm going to make you smile now. So it's those performance triggers that are so important, because once you get that early signal, yeah, it allows you to do.
And as an outcome, one of the takeaways that we've taken is that we now in the process of automating an early warning report, because in our business, because you need to deliver at home, yeah, it takes us for a cash and delivery up to 2.6 attempts to deliver, which isn't efficient, but it's very good for the market, yeah, and for a prepaid shipment, 1.6 attempts, yeah. So it's not only that you're attempting to do a fresh shipment, you've also got a second attempt and a third attempt to deliver. So it's how do you forecast that per city in the right way, and if you have a bottleneck developing, to notify your customers. Okay, hold off on this city, ship on the next one. Yeah,
correct. No, that's exactly right. And another thing, Ken, that you've sort of touched upon there is customers' perception of what they expect as a service. Correct. Without them fulfilling the, shall we say, a fair booking or a fair delivery procedure. So they feel it's okay not to be there at a certain time, but they don't accept that it's not there when they want it at their time.
Exactly.
But equally, it's very difficult to pinpoint that time span.
Yeah, yeah. So what we find is, you know, if a lady is going to receive a phone call from an unknown number,
Yep.
yeah, when you're attempting a delivery, often they won't answer. So you then need to go through an automation process, a number of touch points that you start to communicate through WhatsApp, through SMS and whatever, to try and affect that delivery. And even then, that individual may not be looking at the technology that they have available. Yeah. So it's repetition and so on. Then finally, if she does answer, if the courier has moved on 2 hours later, to come back on the route, it's not so easy. Yeah. So you schedule for the next day and so on. But it's just interestingly, so one of the negatives that have come out is, so I say it's a negative. It's
opportunities to improve, Ken.
Well, exactly. So the negative is that there's been across the board a lot of negative sentiment and frustration coming through on social media, and in particular Twitter. Yeah. And you know, like I said, so if you got all these shipments and you've got to deliver them, you're doing your best, well, you've got a problem. Yeah. And the social media is moving. Yeah. But what that has done is it's forced all companies to up their game. Yeah. And I think that that's very, very positive, both from technology, understanding, you know, the route optimization. You know, so as a company, we're now in a position where we do route optimization on the route during a courier route, because you might find that the route plan that he's been put onto, yeah, which is all through technology, he delivers, let's say, a lot quicker than planned. Yeah. It will reroute him and what have you. Or if there's an accident, the road is another way and what have you. So all of these different touch points from a technology perspective have helped us, and we've developed it quickly, have helped us immensely.
People are saying that, you know, for all the bad things that have happened from the virus, digitization, automation, it's pushed it forward by years and years, and it's also pushed the naysayers away, the ones who resist it, and the admin and the bureaucracy and stuff. So it's actually brought things on, and it's going to have to do as well. Now, as far as a second wave, all right. So living here, and now there's been further restrictions on these corridors, and it's going to be more. So as they've opened up, you know, economists are going to say, you've got to open up because you need cash to get you through the next Northern Hemisphere winter period, etc., or the second wave. So they're allowing businesses to get it, and then they're trying to do this balance and tweaking. Now, personally, and I'm no expert, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a very nasty second wave. So until the vaccines and mixtures and therapeutics are in place, there's going to be a lot more pressure. And that pressure is going to be, you know, between people who are not knowing and not caring and giving up, and the ones that are trying to protect and make sure that there's things there for the future. Now, as far as that's concerned, the communication to the consumer to still have confidence either in a service, a product, or in their own travel is so important. So from the perspective of your responsibilities, certain things need to be explained to customers, and again, in my opinion. So, you know, you've got a certain product that, yes, if this is what's paid for, and it's even, and don't get me wrong, it's not, I'm not trying to force price hikes or anything, but if there are certain extra efforts that have to be made because of this particular coronavirus, then that's an option. And if not, then the actual delivery time commitment might have to be elongated. And that communication to make people accept it, I think, is so important.
Correct. And you're right. Yeah. Except, well, in our case, I don't know whether they do accept it or not, but at least they're informed. And what we've found is, and working with our customers is, you know, on the checkout when you're online, is to create the right expectation when you check out. So that's number one. Yeah. Then you've also got regulation coming into these different markets that we deliver in. And the regulation is basically starting to stipulate that from a domestic perspective, you've got 2 weeks to deliver, and from a cross-border perspective, you've got 3 weeks to deliver,
Yeah.
From time of pickup. So we now in the process of communicating to the consumer that information,
Yeah.
But it's so important though that the consumer, who's the ultimate customer, is basically in the hands of ourselves and the online store. So the logistics partner and the online store need to work really, really closely to get the communication process down. Otherwise, the expectation isn't met. So, as an example, the last Eid. So we deal with a very, very large. So Alibaba.
Yeah.
And so what they did quite rightly was they gave a notification that you should expect to receive your goods within 2 months, which is very slow. It's very slow. But if you look at all the supply chain and then the lack of air capacity coming out of China and so on and so on, from a contingency perspective, maybe they did the right thing. A lot of other customers were a lot quicker in terms of promise. But still creating that expectation when you get into the Eid period, which is like Christmas, people, it's gone over their head and they just want their shipments. Whether they sit in Hong Kong airport or waiting to be cleared at Riyadh airport or in some village or whatever. So there was a lot of pressure that built up in the industry around that time. And we're going through another one
coming up on Thursday. Yeah. And also then with that explosion, and also, like you said, the difference between the traffic that was coming from China this way, and then it went the other way, and then it came back again, and now there's a big reliance again on the traditional markets, but that explosion causes backlogs, and that happens everywhere.
So I never thought I'd become a master of backlogs, because that's obviously you not doing your job properly, but we've experienced that. But saying that, if you look at, I see there being a massive opportunity, and what I've observed is that Asian online stores, have embraced the Middle East. They've understood high GDP per capita, a very young demographic. So that sweet spot, 20, 30 something, it's the biggest segment in the pie chart, and they've done an incredible job in terms of targeting the Middle East. And what you find now is in Europe, despite the fact that you've had Corona and people have been in lockdown, you started to hit saturation. I hope that the European companies start to look at the Middle East as an opportunity, because the basket values are so much higher.
Yep.
Consumer wants what you have there. I mean, you go to Harrods on a Sunday morning and you'll see it opens at 11, go there at 10:30, and you will see who the consumers are waiting to get goods from Harrods. So they want what's on your high street.
But like you said, it's a very young population, and it's a large population, and now they've got a lot more time to focus on things, so it's a great opportunity. Just coming back to Saudi, and for people who don't know Saudi that well, the way in which everybody focuses on getting quality and getting standards in place, I mean, that's also started to enhance with speed now, and people wanting to learn and people being willing to learn, and I think that's happened a lot within NAQEL, just late, and there's some great guys, and I personally would like to mention a few. So you got Artyom, you got Mohammed, Badr, Vadim, Nora. They're the guys who have to be the most unpopular ones, because they're dealing with the QHSS and E side.
Correct.
And Dimitri on your side, Ken, was superb during the
although they're all a bunch of superstars. And you're right, though. The not so fun stuff, is all about health and safety. But trust me, when the going gets tough, that becomes the most important. So the introduction of a risk register, which I'm probably the wrong guy to say this, but which initially was resisted, it's been a welcome breath of fresh air, because we're updating it, and it's a way of, it's a checklist, and you go, okay, so what is important now, let's put these processes into place, look after our people and so on,
Yeah, exactly, and the spot checks for verification is so important as well.
Exactly. So
that's beautiful, Ken. I'm looking around. I've got a tissue here, so I'm going to just wipe a tear from my eye. This is recorded forever, so this is great.
There you go.
No, but seriously, you've also you've also showed how much you care about the people and about the business, and like I said, that period. How long were you in hospital for?
Just over 2 weeks, and they did me a favor because they let me out during Eid. I had to, sign my name in blood that I wouldn't do anything for 2 weeks. So I was in home quarantine for 2 weeks. But I was also lucky because I recovered. I was very sick when I went in. I had pneumonia.
Yeah.
But I recovered quickly. So I was very lucky there.
And any after effects or side effects, or you're back to your
nothing. Yeah, just a very rocky ride while I was going through it. But touch wood, I'm okay. Yeah. So,
makes you revisit certain values and what's important in life, Kenna.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and it's all about people, mate.
Yeah. It is.
And my people on the ground, and obviously the family. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But it is amazing what people do and how character comes out in a crisis.
Correct. So I look at even like from you look at world leaders.
Yeah.
And sometimes you sit there and you scratch your head, in terms of what the hell is happening in Brazil.
Yeah.
Is that the right example you want to be setting? Yeah. So, and all of these guys, I mean, like you look at the UK now in terms of people reflecting back. Yeah, it's so easy to point fingers when you reflect back. I think it's a necessary process because you'll obviously come out of that a lot better. But in hindsight, it's very easy to say all of these things, but you've got to go through it and learn it. Yeah,
it is, and I think the way of doing it, Ken, is and you're right. It's not looking back and pointing fingers. It's looking back and saying what would have been the most effective practice.
Absolutely.
And then making sure that is something that's trained and it's built into people moving forward.
Correct.
And like I say to everybody, anybody who thinks the world is perfect is either foolish or there's something else wrong with them. But if you ever, people who go through a crisis, it's an experience that they never forget, and it's a value that others should have shared, not resisted. And it's that focus, and it's also about a different type of leadership. So one of the things that everybody's going to have to get used to now is this reboot readiness review. So people are going to have to look at, right, have we got enough people trained in the right areas?
Absolutely.
Are they licensed correctly? What's important? You've only got to look at the likes of ICAO, IATA, everyone. They're readdressing all of their prerequisites. They're making things more effective. One classic one is the ICAO review now of the dangerous goods rules and regulations. What they're doing now is they're modularizing it. So if you're a company who doesn't deal with radioactive, then why on earth do you bother sending your people on a radioactive segment of the course? So people are starting to get a lot more pragmatic and more collaborative.
Yeah.
And that'll help things.
And also though, you're right about leadership, because one of the things that I've really focused on, and I guess there's been no choice, is when you go through this process, I've identified and actively looked for doers, and hopefully coming out with some thinking doers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, sometimes the best strategy is doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we focus clearly on that. And I'll give you a hypothetical example. We have so we run with about 1,000 couriers on the different routes in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. We've got a team leader per 15 couriers. So that's our internal matrix. Yeah. What we've done now is we've got laptops for every team leader so that he can measure and monitor and look at what the courier on the ground is doing. And he's got the visibility now. So he can see if the courier stopped for an hour, you know, what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he can see if 20 checkpoints have been put in for 20 shipments at one point, then he's not doing live scanning and so on and so on. Yeah. Which is very important because it impacts the consumer. So we've been lucky. I think we've got some good people, and we're starting to put some pragmatic actions that will make a material difference to the end consumer. So
yeah, and the more awareness and transparency people have, the quicker they can respond, and the more effective then the action is, which is really good. And then also, you know, we need to mention about the high level and high focus of certification and accreditation programs that are taking place at the moment as well, and all the learning and the consistencies within each of those as well. So I think it bodes well, Ken, for the future.
Yeah, so we'll keep our fingers crossed in terms of the gateways. As you know, we operate 3 buildings. We do our own clearance in our own facilities, airside, landside, bonded, non-bonded, and accreditation there is very, very, very important for us.
Yeah.
So to get it right and to live it are 2 different things, and we now need to start looking at the living or the implementation, execution.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, Ken, listen, we're coming to the end of the podcast, and like I said to you many times, I likened our initial relationship like Muhammad Ali and Joe Fraser, but you know how much respect they had for each other during the course, and reflecting back there, some great battles. But seriously, I know how much you care, Ken, and it's greatly appreciated and respected. And do me a favour, give a big hello to Mohammed and Adnan. Tell them I missed them, and
I'll do that.
We'll see each other soon. And maybe, my friend, we'll get to see each other in South Africa in next summer for the Lions tour.
I look forward to it. We haven't had a big win since last year, but
but let's forget that one. Yeah, there's revenge on the horizon, I hope.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, see you in South Africa, basically.
Yeah, and take care, and like I said, I hope I haven't upset any Australians out there, but it certainly made you perk up a little bit. Take care of yourself. Good luck, Ken.
Okay.
And we'll speak soon. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.